Welcome to Data Mining Explained by Carter Jaber. I'm going to be taking you on a guided tour through my website and talk a little bit about the background of how I created the HTML coding to allow this website to appear the way it does. So here you have my index page. The date is shown here and the title of the project, my animation here, and a little bit about the background of data mining and my abstract, and then a table of contents. So now if I go into my file manager, I'm going to show you the text-based coding that is done in the HTML document index.html. So I'm going to click Edit here. And you see my tags here opening up the HTML, the header part of the tag, which has some metadata in here, talking a little bit about the author and the type of character set used, the title, the JavaScript, which allows the date of today to show up every time you visit the front page. Then the style tag here opens up how I styled the page, which is an internal styling, so the background image which shows up, the way it's laid out, some individual divs here. This is a division here that sets the width of the page that covers the background, so the white area where the text is and so forth, and the ridge red border around that white area. The line items, so this is an ordered list of line items that sets up the table of contents in that style. And then the text centers, so the H1 tag and the H2 tag, my animation, and then we close the style tag here and the header tag, which is where the style needs to appear in. Then we go on to the body, which identifies the div content cover, which I talked about just above in the style section. So this content cover will divide up all this area. Then we have some comments here which cite where I got the background image from, where I got some of the images for my animation from, the actual animation image source here itself, a couple of breaks in the line, and then my abstract text. And then my table of contents, which are all clickable links, and these say a target here, which gives them a clickable link, and then purpose, effects and impacts, technical aspects, and so forth, which bring you to the different parts of my page. Then the div is closed, the body is closed, and the HTML is closed, and that's the end of the coding for that index page. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about how I created the background, the animation on the front page, and then the banner that you'll see on the corresponding pages as we move through the presentation. In the Pixlr assignment, which was an assignment earlier in the year, we created these individual images, and this was a background that I took offline, and then I used the Pixlr program to overlay this layer of binary code into the pool down here and also insert this pixelated text into the background. Then if I move on, this is my banner, which includes the same logo that's in my GIF, and that's the animation that's on the front page, which has a picture of me in it as well. And then you have some binary code here in the background, this fingerprint and magnifying glass, which was overlaid on top of that, and then also these mining tools, which were overlaid on top of that as well. And finally, my animation, which shows you me, some other image that I took off of line, which shows data mining and a bunch of words that correspond to it, and the image that I just talked to from my banner. So we've arrived on my purpose page, and if you look at the banner which I talked about here in the Pixlr assignment, the data mining banner will actually click back to the index page. So I'll show you that real quick, and then we'll go back to purpose. And this is just basically giving a little insight into what the purpose of this project is, the name of the innovation, and a clear description. So data mining is a useful tool used by companies and industries to transform raw data into valuable information to create forecasting, generate demographics, increase sales, create efficiencies, a number of different things. I give an example here and some pictures that I've styled the page with, referencing reward card systems that are used in various different supermarkets around the world to extract data from what you purchase, and then they can generate popular items as sales moving forward and really tailor their sales in the future to what people buy on a frequent basis. So it benefits you as the customer, it also benefits them because they increase their sales from using these reward card systems. So now I'll take you into a little bit of the background of how this purpose page is coded. So touch on it briefly, and then I'll go into the CSS, which is a styling for each of the upcoming pages that are separate from the index. So every one of the individual pages upcoming is styled by the CSS style sheet. So they use this link here, which brings the style sheet up and references all the styling points to hit for all the pages. So every one of the upcoming pages actually has this link at the top of it to use that styling. Then we get into the body here. It has the banner at the top, which you've seen already, that goes back to the page beforehand. It's a clickable link. Then we have the background here, which is the information about the individual topic and the paragraphs here, and then the image IDs, right? So that's each individual image ID has its own style. That's why they have an ID here, and then in quotes, the reward card that cites a specific styling for each individual picture. Some of them are very similar, some are varying in width and so forth. And then we have our footer here, which is our buttons and the references. So this one, the button home, will go back to index. The next section will go back up to index, and so on. So then I click on my style sheet here, and this is the CSS style sheet. So this tells the body to appear as light blue, how I want the H1 tag to appear. This is the table tags, which you'll see on the reference page towards the end of the presentation, how the references are styled in the table format. Then the H3 tags, the paragraph, which is the P here, the paragraph font and styling, and then each one of these individual image IDs that I talked about, how they're styled. So this is for the reward card on the page we already looked at, then the shopping cart here, this one you'll see on the next page, and each one of these is an individual picture that I've called out with an individual class to style them uniquely. And as I mentioned, some are the same, but they're each individually classed so they can call out a certain styling. And then finally onto the buttons, which is on the bottom of the page, and I'll show you that here. So these buttons are styled in a way that they appear blue, but when I go over with the cursor, it changes color. So next we have the effects and impacts page here, which answers 3 questions. First one being harmful effects of data mining. So I touch on a little bit about how information security is so critical with respect to data mining, and the companies can't really compromise on their protection of people's personal information getting out into cyberspace and being subject to hackers. So here I talked a little bit about a company A being bought by company B, in this case a mortgage company, buying personal information, transferring everything over, but maybe their security settings are a little bit more lax than that of company A, and information gets out where it doesn't need to be, into the wrong hands. So that can happen with data mining if too much information is pulled into the wrong area. Moving on, we have the impact of data mining on society, and I did a survey here with colleagues from work and also family, and this is just asking a question: do you think data mining in modern application has a positive impact on making daily activities more convenient? 9 out of 10 said yes. Then I talk about an example of Amazon using data mining here to look at search history and purchase history from previous visits to the site and generating recommendations of what you may be interested to buy for future reference. And they also use this with their Prime feature on video recommendations and so forth. Here's a brief chart explaining the launch of the Kindle Fire and also Amazon Prime memberships, how it's been growing as the features have been growing of the site over the years. So pretty impressive chart there. Moving on, I have a embedded video that just talks about what is Amazon Prime and is it worth it. Talks to some of those features which utilize that data mining I touched on earlier. And then finally, I embedded a video from an earlier assignment which talks about the Google Now app and how that works in a very brief video that I put together. So I'm going to play that for you right now.
So today we're going to talk about data mining, and I'm going to ask a question here. What type of innovation in society has been affected recently by data mining?
Sure. So Google has a service called Google Now where they take data on your phone, they push it over to the server, and they're able to give data on, for instance, when you leave from your work to go home every day, they can take that data into their server, analyze it, and shoot back a map with directions to go home at the appropriate time.
So you can see here my colleague demonstrating use of the Google Now app with the time that it will take him to get home from work today.
Google uses data mining to produce this information.
So that video was recorded on an iPhone 6, and I used Windows Live Movie Maker to put that together by adding the title and the rest of the content in that video with the song overlaid at the beginning and the transitions. Last on this page is the impact of data mining in the manufacturing industry, and I touch on a little bit about forecasting in production scheduling and how data mining can be used in systems to look at previous sales history to generate future forecasts, what time of the year customers buy certain things, and that type of data, which can be very useful for a production scheduler and companies alike. So we arrive now on the technical aspects part of the website. Here we're describing how a user interacts with the innovation. So there's many ways, but one way is if the user in a company is a company trying to evaluate patterns or group data to generate sales or increase business for a product. They can use the collected data based on a search history or purchase history and send a query to the mining system to generate an accurate depiction of product interest. And depending on how the company or user defines this query, the pattern shown will be different, but they can fine-tune it to what works best for them and what they're trying to achieve with their target audience. So we give an example here, and it's similar to that of Amazon Prime, but the Netflix offers a 0 to 5 star scale rating for looking at individual movies that you've already seen when you're a member of the site. And you go on and you rank them, and then it'll make recommendations of similar movies that you may not have seen that fall into this genre or fall into similarities of movies that you like, and it uses data from what you've put in as a user and also information from what other people that use the website have put in for information to make similar recommendations based on your likings. So here we have where it starts and then where it finishes with the suggestions for you. Then to get into a little bit more of the technical aspect, we talk about the types of data mining algorithms. Here we talk about C4.5, which is a classifier style of data mining. And this is a flowchart style, what's called a decision tree, which is very complex, but it uses various different questions that are answered along the way to decide which way it's going to drive the individual pattern to reach an end result. There's another one mentioned here called K-means, which I won't get into, but if you'd like to read more about them, there's a link here where I found some of my information, and there's the top 10 data mining algorithms explained. So there's 8 more than I touch on here that you can learn about if you'd like to. So we've arrived at the final content page here, which answers the last couple of questions. This is the relationship to data page. So the first question is describe how the innovation consumes data as input and produces it as output. So what I do is give an example here. If I owned a computer game company that was looking for specific demographic for what my target audience is for a new game that I create, so the inputs that I require would be, for example, date of birth, address, gender, favorite genre game, and I can do that by requiring an online registration for previous owners of games, and then I can use that data in a data mining tool to generate valid forecasting for future marketing campaigns and new games that I produce. So I know where to target my audience if I release a couple of games. One may be targeted at women in the age of 20 to 35-year-old range who want to buy puzzle games or action games or whatever it may be. But I can use the data mining to my advantage to harness the best tools for marketing in the future. Here on the left, here on the example, I've floated an image here that just shows how data starts and is mined and ends up becoming knowledge to the data mining user in the future. And then the last question here is just talking about a privacy concern or security concern, and I touched on it a bit before, but I talk about here large companies like Facebook, eHarmony, they retrieve an awful lot of personal information about you that could be used in a malicious manner in the future or negatively or embarrassing if intimate details about yourself got out to the public or got out into the wrong hands. So you can read a bit more about that when you visit my page. And I also touch on target having the tremendous leak of debit card data around after the holiday season that got into the hands of hackers, and it cost the company millions of dollars. So information security and security measures is not something you want to skimp on budget on when you have a company that's using data mining and retrieving personal information. And here, this is just a quick cartoon that's kind of funny that you can read when you visit the page as well. Okay, so our last stop here is the references page, and this has the 5 cited websites that I used for doing my research. The one I use the most here would be the Data Mining Wiki, and this is the clickable link to go to that. And all the other ones are clickable as well. The year that they came out, and when I accessed them. So I thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed the world of data mining. Feel free to visit my website to learn a bit more. For more information, please visit my website, to the right of the green arrow.